September 28, campaigns into various elective positions will be flagged off, and there are expectations of intrigues and high-level politicking in Nigeria, with 18 presidential candidates vying to take over the mantle of leadership in the country. The expected games have started in full swing. Experience, character, and track record are top factors considered in voters' choice of candidates, and Nigerians have been talking about the coming polls and what to expect. We'll be discussing the build-up to the opening of the campaigns ahead of the 2023 elections and what Nigerians should look forward to. Welcome to The Square. I'm Sulaiman. Well, for our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, the Independent Electoral Commission in Nigeria, otherwise known as INEC, is the electoral umpire. And the electoral umpire has revealed that more than 96 million Nigerians have registered to vote, with campaigns ahead of the elections expected to begin on Wednesday. The political candidates have seen their army of supporters go all out for them as they continue to roll out their antecedents. What stands every candidate out is uniquely different, and we'll be analyzing the key points in these various campaigns, committees, and what Nigerians expect. Now, from the ruling party, where we've seen key names omitted in the campaign committee, to the issues in the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, the focus is 2023 and the expectations of Nigerians. Austyn Ogannah, the publisher of THEWILL Newspaper, he's been keeping a tab on the political development in Nigeria, joins me now. Good to see you, Austyn, and thanks for your time as always.
Thank you for having me on your show. It's always a pleasure to discuss.
Well, I recall almost 4 years ago, you and I were sat looking at some developments in Nigeria leading up to the 2019 election. Here we are again. It looks like deja vu, but this time it looks like no more a two-horse race, as we have so many other candidates. Now, what do you make of the presidential candidates? Let's start by making it look a little bit, spread out now, Austyn.
Thank you again. It's the season. On Wednesday, campaigns will formally begin in Nigeria. And as well aware, there are three main presidential candidates in this election. Some will expand it to four, to include Engineer Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP. But otherwise, it's actually a two-way election as we see today. The elections will be held today. It's going to be a very close race between Peter Obi, who happens to be the surprise, well, some people say he's the front runner, but I would say he's a disruptor. He reminds me of President Trump in 2016 when Trump emerged against all the calculations. So you have Peter Obi, you have Tinubu of the ruling All Progressives Congress, and also the tested and trusted Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party. So the dynamics for this election, we're looking at an election that we've never seen, had in the history of following elections in this country. You have the candidate, Peter Obi, who seems to have the biggest momentum, whose supporters seem to be the most enthused amongst everyday supporters of candidates in the race, seeming to redefine or reshape the political narrative in this country. Because we've always known that presidential election, even politics at the state level in this country, has always been between the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress.
And now, jump in here, Austyn, and you say, because just before this moment, we've had you on the show, and you were still very specific, and now you have come to say that love him or hate him, the Labour Party candidate can't be discountenanced here in this race, Peter Obi. Now, we'll come back to looking at these candidates and their political parties. But again, let's start with the APC in no particular order. The omission of the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, from the ruling party's campaign team has been taken in different contexts. Austyn, help us make sense of this, because the party has been speaking, trying to make reasons why the gentleman's name is absent.
There's absolutely, well, it's all party politics. If that's how they want to do it. But if you follow the APC, you will know that there's rancor within the party, just like the People's Democratic Party. Now, it came to some of us as a surprise that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo did not make the cut for the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, which comes to many of us as a surprise, because as a sitting vice president, after the president, he's the second man in the party, whether we like it or not. So for the party itself, to constitute, we hear that if there are even issues in the party with regards to how the campaign council was put together. So that's an internal party issue that needs to be sorted. But I think that, it's only Vice President Osinbajo probably not occupying a prominent role or missing from that campaign council. There are many other big books in the APC that are not there. But I believe that it's all politics. It's probably what the presidential candidate of the party wants. Because I know that if there are rancors and there are divisions, you know how party politics is. But just what it is, it's politics taking home, and that's what it is.
And now you say that his name is not the only name missing out from that list, and some one of the spokespersons, another learned lawyer in Nigeria, Femi, I beg your pardon, Festus Keyamo, had spoken out, and he's giving reasons that the absence of Nigeria's vice president from that campaign list is as a result of the president's instruction. As one of Africa's, journalists following political happenings in the country, have you been able to find out the true picture of that particular scenario, Austyn?
I don't want to speculate, but I know that that was just Mr. Keyamo is a very good friend. That was probably an afterthought. I do not believe, like most of my colleagues, that the president gave an express position that the vice president should be excluded. I don't think it's, I can't stand for it, so I really don't want to speculate. If he says that's what it is, then we'll just take it for what it is. I haven't done any major investigations over it, so I will not be in a very good position to dispute or discountenance what is said. But the fact remains that there's rancor definitely in the All Progressive Congress, just like.
Now, when you talk about rancor in the ruling All Progressives Congress, we seem to also say the same in the People's Democratic Party. Are these, affecting the two major political parties as it stands? Because we have just less than 72 hours for the campaigns to start.
Oh, absolutely. You see, the campaigns, will probably start on Wednesday, probably on Thursday, by God's grace, and we watch the race unfold. But there are definitely, it appears to be like only the Labour Party, at least for now, appears not to have any major issues that probably determine the outcome of the election for the party. But in the APC and the PDP, these are very experienced politicians, and naturally they will have disagreements and what have you. But if you look at the problem within the APC, I know that at some point they probably, if they're able to manage the egos, of some of the major players in the party. I personally know that someone like Nasir Rufai, a very important government in the APC, is not happy with the way the presidential campaign of Bola Tinubu is being handled. I know that for sure. I also know that there are a couple of other big wigs that are being reached out to by the PDP, for instance, and its candidate. So in this, at some point in this conversation, I had said that this is an election like no other that we've ever had in history. What we know today is that some governors, I'm not going to mention names, but some governors in the PDP are reaching out to their counterparts in the APC to see how they can work for their candidates. And some governors in the PDP as well are doing the same vice versa. So it's, these are very experienced politicians. What you have today is a lot of horse trading, because we all know that there's really no difference between the PDP and the APC.
And Austyn, how much of an advantage will the experience of these big politicians, especially in these two political parties, bring on the side of their political parties? Quickly here, I'm saying this on the grounds that the Labour Party presidential candidate, for many, they still think that the highest level he's so far attained in Nigerian politics has been the position of a governor, because the last time he ran as a vice presidential candidate under the biggest opposition party, the PDP.
Let's take a look at P2B, for instance. As governor, he was governor for 18 years, right? That's a lot of experience. Anambra is one of the most important states in the country by virtue of the amount of trade that goes on in Anambra. So, in terms of experience, you cannot discountenance that he is experienced politically. And also, in terms of the fact, like you said, that he's been the vice presidential candidate of a once ruling party is also a plus for him. Then also look at his antecedents in the private sector. We know it to be over time to be one of the major international traders in this country, trading commodities and confectionaries. So his college sits also in banking. He's chairman of one of the major financial institutions in Nigeria, Fidelity Bank. He was one-time chairman and obviously founder of the bank. So he's so he's been able to harness the support of youth. We actually thought his campaign would stop at that, but from what we've seen and what we've heard, from the videos and from those that I've never been to any of his campaigns, but from what we've seen that the support base is actually outside the internet. It's actually more than the internet. The support base is actually outside the youth. You have people that are in their 50s, 40s, 55, 35, those you probably not consider youth, backing him in huge numbers. So that's giving him a lot of momentum. That's recharging the Labour Party. The Labour Party has always been there, but nobody knew anything about the Labour Party until P2B adopted the party, and he seems, to be growing every day. But when he started his campaign, we all thought it would fizzle out over time, but he hasn't. Instead, I remember we ran a cover story about 3 months ago, about 4 months ago, when we noticed this momentum. And we did a cover story on the wheel, on P2B, and saying this guy may actually disrupt the political space. And he's actually doing more than that. And in some polls, he's actually on top. Look at the poll.
And Austyn, just before your cover story, Nigerians, especially Nigerian politicians, would always say to the people who care to listen that, well, you must have a structure across the 774 local government area in Nigeria for you to be, ever considered a force in Nigeria's presidential political journey. But the man, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, hasn't actually shown that before this movement. Do you think there'll be something quite different about next year's election owing to what we're seeing within the Labour Party and his movement now known as the Obedient Movement? Austyn.
Yes. You see, I said something earlier, which I'd like to repeat again, and I'm saying this for emphasis, so that voters, analysts, everyone interested in Nigerian politics will understand. We've never had an election cycle like this, and we will not had an election like this in the past. In 2023, in February, the presidential election, when people go out to vote, the only way you be allowed to vote is if your voter's card and your biometrics are recognized by the INEC PVC reader. If it doesn't recognize you, you will not be able to vote. Unlike in the past, when you have a system that when you bring your card and you do your biometrics in the voting machine and it doesn't recognize you, INEC will give you a form that they call an incident form that you fill and you'll be allowed to vote. And this is how politicians, have managed to rig elections. But that is not going to happen this time. So the only way you can rig this election as a politician or as a rigger is if you take money to the field to go and induce voters. That is the only way to rig, or you successfully hack the INEC system. There is no other way around it. So the numbers you're going to get will reflect the true numbers of those that actually voted. And you see it in the results, that at the end of the day, I'm sure in the last election, we probably had 30 to 35 million of voters. But in this election, you probably see a huge reduction in those numbers. So just take out 30 to 40, maybe 25, 30% of those numbers. So in this election, you see genuine numbers. And this is what people now understand that is making them, appreciate the fact that they have the powers now to choose whoever they want to lead them. And you know what? The candidate that is benefiting from this is Peter Obi. That is why he has the momentum. That is why if you go out there and gather 10, 15, 20 people and ask them, especially in the South, who they want to vote for, they will tell you, Peter Obi. Will this change before the election? We don't know. But the more we tend to see the candidates when they campaign, I believe that most Nigerians will take a decision on whom they want to vote for. I was with some elders yesterday, some political strategists, and I said something. I said the campaigns are about to start. War without any candidate that falls ill or falls during the campaign, their presidential campaign will be dead on arrival because Nigerians are not ready for any president that will be stable. We're already in a terrible place. So my advice to all the candidates, just go and be well, go and be fit. Because Nigerians will not cut any candidate a slack. If you fall ill on the campaign, that is the end of the election. I'm going back to Peter Obi, like since the one we're talking about. He's been able to put a coalition together, right? Some of them are silent supporters because they don't want to come out openly to say they are for him. It reminds me of President Trump in 2016 that we all wrote off. We all said it's not possible. This man is a clown. This man is this, this man is that. All the polls, the pundits, not gave him a chance. But some people kept saying this guy has momentum at the grassroots that nobody took seriously. And, I know he won via the electoral college, he didn't win the majority votes. But it's, I mean,
Austyn, let me jump in here. That's the United States of America. But in Africa, Nigeria, there seems to be a lot of tribal inclinations to the election. Now, these political parties and candidates you've highlighted, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and Peter Obi, they seem to all be divided across regional lines. How much of a threat is this to the quality of choices Nigerians will make next year?
you see, considering the way the country is structured, the country, especially right now, is very polarized. Some people are going to vote across ethnic lines. It's always happened here. Some people are going to vote by virtue of the fact that, oh, this is my God. But I still believe that majority, especially at this point where, I mean, we've all seen the country. We're not, well, many of us are not happy. I believe those that are not happy with the state of the country and the majority. So I believe that in these round of elections, the ethnic or religious card will only pay for those that are not literate. That is what I believe. I believe that voters will go out there to choose amongst these 3 or 4 people, the front runners. Voters will look at them, look at their records, they look at what they stand for, look at what they've done, look at their capacity, look at their health, look at everything about them, and decide whom they want to vote for based on whatever convictions that they choose. But for especially the way the country is right now, there's a lot of frustration. A lot of other frustrated. People are not happy. I know with the government today, appears to have gotten its act together in terms of problems with the security challenges, particularly in the north. But other than that, people are not happy with the state of the economy. There's a lot of headwinds. I know it's not only in Nigeria. Inflation is a problem everywhere in the world. But the truth is, it's how you feel it in your pocket that will determine how you vote. And in this election, there are 2 main issues: the economy and security. So whichever political party or whichever candidate is able to convince voters that follow me and I'll give you the change that you deserve, that is where the election is going to go.
Well, no doubt, Austyn. We'll come back to the issues, certainly. But again, we're still looking at, a potpourri of issues within the political parties. And in a zigzag form, we've touched the APC and the PDP. But again, still going back to the PDP, there seem to be some clashes, skirmishes, political battles within the party. What do you make of that within the PDP and the reaction of some governors within the PDP?
You see, it's so unfortunate that the PDP is battling what it's battling. It's absolutely unnecessary with the way they've managed their crisis, especially relating to how their presidential candidates emerged. I was one of those that canvassed for 2 major political parties to zone the presidential, their presidential tickets to the south to avoid this confusion. Because the truth is, whether we like it or not, we're in a country called Nigeria that is very diverse in every form. We've had the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, is from the north. And naturally, after his tenure, irrespective of whatever political party, that should field the candidate, I personally believe that I still believe so that power should shift to the south. But in the PDP, they had a different agenda. I don't know why they did what they did, but they've done it, and now you have a problem because we followed their presidential primary, and it was clear that the Nyesom Wike, the governor of the West State, was the front runner. We said it, everyone said it, but there was a coalition, against him that made sure that he didn't emerge. Party politics is what it is, not a problem. But the process that led to the emergence of Ifeanyi Okoh as the vice presidential candidate of the PDP is what I believe, made it more difficult for the party to manage Wike. Because the truth is, we followed that whole process. There was a group that was constituted that had the mandate to recommend or choose a vice presidential candidate for Atiku. This group met and they were going to vote, but we heard that IU stopped the voting process and just said, look, just in terms of, the mandate is not for you guys to vote. The mandate is just to let us know who your preference is. And clearly, Wike, came tops. We heard that authoritatively. But what happened was, it's in Atiku's prerogative to choose his deputy, not a problem. But he should have gone that route if he did not want this group to influence whoever he emerges. So that infuriated Wike that, you still reject, you guys conspired against me in Abuja during the primary, and I didn't emerge. And now you're conspiring against me again, even when, I'm also highly favored to emerge. I'm not going to have it. In fact, IU has not been fair. IU should go. And, unfortunately, Wike, that's where you also have a major problem, because Wike has been the one that has been choosing the PDP's national chairman. He chose Modu Sharif after the party lost the election when Adamu Muazu left. Modu Sharif came, held the party to the jugular. Sharif left. I think he brought Secondus. Secondus, Wood was chairman for about 2.5, 3 years. He got Secondus removed. He brought Ayu. Ayu is there, and Ayu is not playing, the game he wants Ayu to play. Now he wants Ayu to go. But the leaders of the party, when I'm leaders of the party, those that were the grandfathers of the party, when Wike was probably local government chairman, know the hierarchy of the party. Those that form the party have said to me that, look, Wike, you cannot wield the kind of power that you wield, that you want to wield.
That's where I come in, Austyn. We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll talk more about the man Nyesom Wike, how powerful or otherwise he is in the PDP and in the coming elections. And of course, I'll also talk about the Wike's group's antics and how that is affecting the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. And of course, how Tinubu may or may not be able to navigate the Muslim ticket and the frustrations of Nigerians that may affect the outcome of the coming elections. That's when we return. Stay with us.